Hello and welcome to the Indian Classical Guitar Academy. Today we have a discussion with Ashnaa Sasikaran, who did a fantastic job supplying vocal accompaniment on the Raag Hansadhwani course, along with Gurdain Rayatt on tabla. In each exercise she added the Sargam syllables matching every note of the guitar, so we could really hear the full expression of the Sargam in Raag Hansadhwani. In this conversation we're talking about her background and experience that she's had. We're also comparing the differences between Hindustani and Carnatic music as best we can. So I hope you all enjoy this video, and if you'd like to find out more about the guitar courses that we do, then visit indianclassicalguitar.com. There's plenty more to see there. Thanks very much for watching. It's wonderful to get a chance to speak to you and just to find out more about your musical background and some of your influences. It's been interesting just to see over the past year or so your kind of unfolding with your music, and it really feels to me that something's emerging and opening up, and just the quality of your production values and everything has just really been improving massively. So I'd just like to say big congratulations with how well everything seems to be going for you so far.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, so it was only I think it was like a year and a half ago I started posting socials. So before then I hadn't even considered it. So I think that's helped me kind of branch out into exploring with other genres as well, and kind of just being a bit more creative. So I'm happy with that kind of enabling me to be a bit more creative, for sure.
Yeah, because there's such a range of different styles, and you adapt your voice to whatever the genre is, and you're singing in different languages as well. So I mean, you look like you've just got a really massive musical taste with loads of different avenues that you'd like to go.
I'm not sure. It's just that I appreciate a lot, so I kind of want to try a bit of everything, and then just see what works, I guess. Yeah, I'm pretty much open to anything. Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about your background in terms of Carnatic music, because you've obviously had some quite rigorous training in that area.
I think I started learning around the age of 9.
Okay.
Roughly. So I started Carnatic music, but I never properly took it seriously until around the age of 15, and then I started to go training with my current group called Shri Vamshi Krishna Vishnu Das, and that's kind of when my love for Carnatic began, and that's when I actually started to understand Carnatic music a bit more, because while I was doing the foundations and stuff, I guess because I'm building that foundation, I didn't necessarily understand Carnatic music or appreciate it to the extent that I do now. Okay. So then I started performing more and learning more, and playing around with improvisation as well, and that kind of got me interested in that aspect as well. And also around that time I also went to India for the December festival season. So I was just basically just sitting in loads and loads of concerts, and that kind of helped me kind of just appreciate it a lot more. So I guess that's kind of how I've progressed into being much more interested in Carnatic music and focusing more on it, I guess.
Yeah, that must have been somewhere in Tamil Nadu that the festival was happening. Which
it was in Chennai.
In Chennai, yeah.
Yeah.
The singer that I was working with a few years ago was from Chennai as well. Okay. So I know that's a real center of Carnatic music.
Yeah.
So when you were in your sort of formative years from the age of 9, were you learning quite a traditional route of Carnatic music, doing lots of different exercises and learning Sargam and different ragams, compositions? I mean, was it quite a traditional step-by-step process that Carnatic music is known for?
Yeah, I guess starting off with the foundation, so like sort of vertices and just like the basic exercises with swarms, and then going on to compositions and stuff. But I think quite early on it was kind of divided into grades and stuff, which I think was quite restrictive in terms of actually understanding Carnatic music and exploring it. So for me, my knowledge of Carnatic music was very much restricted, and I didn't really understand like the beauty behind it. So until I actually started listening to music and listening to concerts, that's only when I actually started to understand it on a deeper level.
I see what you mean. Okay, because there's the structure, almost like the mathematical structure that's behind the music. You know, understanding conical or doing things like. I mean, I don't really have proper training at all in South Indian, so I don't really know the terms. But things like in North Indian, we'd call it alankar, where you, like the kind of things we did on the Hansadhwani course, where you got sa re ga re sa re ga ma pa ma ga re, and you're just always adding one more note and then coming back, or just doing things like going up a scale in threes and up in fours. So sa re ga ma pa. All of these different things which are very mechanical in a sense. So am I right in thinking that you were being led through those kinds of exercises, but then the real expression and the depth of the music is not necessarily self-evident? Exactly. Doing that.
So in terms of those exercises that you're talking about, like I still use them now to practice. So they're very much fundamental, and that is kind of how I began. That's kind of what I learned at the very beginning, and still right now.
Sure. Now that makes a lot of sense, because actually when I thought of doing the course with you, I haven't really heard you do that much Sargam. I've heard some Carnatic, the Carnatic piece, and so I knew it just sounded so rooted that there's obviously a lot of training behind that. But I hadn't really heard the Sargam. I hadn't heard you doing more technical things in that way. But that didn't really occur to me until after I asked you, because it just seemed to me obvious that you would be fine with that. But when I sent you the exercises, and I thought, actually, these are quite tough, aren't they? And then when you recorded them and sent them back, it really occurred to me, actually, this was really, really hard. But I kind of knew that you would do it. But when the result came back, it sort of happened a bit in reverse. I sort of realized, oh yeah, okay, so she's definitely done loads of training to be able to get through these kind of exercises, because when you were doing them, you were able to punctuate on the different notes in a way that was really musical. So even though it was an exercise which can be sort of quite dry, you were bringing a certain sense of musicality to them, and you were often accenting like the high pa at the top, and which is a key note in that rag as well. So it just felt like there was a really nice expression which was carried out through the exercises, which is great, because the reason that I really wanted to get the Sargam accompaniment is just to bring that side of it to life a bit more, so it starts to sort of play in the back of your head. So even when the idea is that even if you're playing your guitar, those syllables are sort of on your mind. It's interesting what you're saying about it was only later that you really understood more the meaning and the kind of impact that all of that can have. And that was through seeing live concerts and listening to the music.
Like you were saying with like the maths behind the music and all of that, I completely missed all of that, because I was just pretty much just taught it, and then I just recited it, and there was nothing more. I never ventured into it more, explored it more. So all of that like mathematical side, and just being able to like learn ragams and express myself through ragams with improvisation. All of that came later on. It wasn't something that I was doing early on, so I didn't understand that, or didn't even know that like improvisation was a part of Carnatic music. It was all kind of understood later on through actually listening properly. So
Right.
I think,
Okay.
I definitely think that just purely listening to concerts and stuff is what kind of changed things.
Yeah. You've had some performance experience with because you were part of Samyo.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that stand for exactly?
South Asian Music Youth Orchestra.
Right. That's it. Yeah, and it's run by Milap Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how many years were you a part of that?
So I think I joined around 15. So again, around the time I started to be a bit more interested in music. So yeah, 15 to now. So yeah, around like 4 or 5 years.
So you're still part of it now?
And yeah, so there's a group called Tarang, which is for over 18. So I'm a part of that now. So I guess
I see, right.
Yeah. So I'm still part of Milap Fest, but yeah, I was in Samia for around 4 years, and that was really great actually because again it kind of opened me to other like-minded musicians, and again I was able to explore more with music, and yeah, I guess also performing with them as well was really great as well, and again pushed me to try more of that improvisation and stuff. I hadn't been forced to improvise like on the spot before, so Samuel did actually enable me to start doing that and kind of putting that pressure on me, which I'd never put on myself before. So that was quite good in terms of just pushing me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, it looks like a really fantastic organization that they've set up, and I've done 2 concerts with Milap Fest, and they were really, really nice. But people was Pravinda set it up, and so yeah, it felt like there was a lot of heart in
Definitely, yeah.
Milap Fest. Really lovely.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So were you doing a combination of was it some of it North Indian, some of it South Indian in that organization?
Yeah, it was actually. So some of our gurus were South Indian and South Indian music teachers, and then some were North Indian. So I think when I joined Samyo, that's kind of the reason that I actually started to like listen to more North Indian music as well, and because there was a mix of North Indian musicians and South Indian musicians, so we got to really like collaborate with each other and learn about each other's styles of music and how they differ, and also being able to perform them as well was actually quite interesting and nice.
Yeah, that's so valuable. It took me a long time just to really hear the difference between them. I mean, once you've heard that difference, you can't really go back, and it seems really, really obvious. But when I first started listening to Indian music, and I had my first teacher gave me a CD compilation, and it just had bits of everything, all different instruments, and North and South and folk music. And there was Carnatic music on there, but I didn't really know that it was different.
Yeah.
But once I I think what really helped me to realize the difference was there's this one Dabar Festival video. I think it's these two brothers playing the violin, but they've got the two violins, and then they've got percussionist on either side of the stage. One I think is playing Gatam or Kanjira, and then the other one is Madringam, but one of the 2-headed drums that you'd have in Carnatic music. And when I saw that setup and the way that they were interacting, I thought, oh, hang on, this is more like a Shakti concert. Shakti with John McLaughlin and Zakir Hussain. So it reminded me of the original Shakti, and with El Shankar on the violin, because the first time that I ever heard a Carnatic musician was El Shankar, a Carnatic melody player rather than a percussionist, and when I heard him on the Shakti albums, I just thought it was the most incredible playing that I'd ever heard. It was so free, and it just sounded like an expression of nature. It sounded more close to the animal kingdom than it did to a human, just because it was so graceful and so light and delicate, and it just seemed to really know no bounds. You know, it was so free. So I was very familiar with that, but to me that was just John McLaughlin working with Indian classical musicians. It wasn't until I saw more of a traditional setup, and also just visually the way that the stage was set, the way that they sat together, that I made the connection like, oh, hang on, Shakti is actually more Carnatic than it is Hindustani. So that was a kind of big realization. So yeah, they are quite different. It's difficult to really describe the difference. I mean, the vocalist that I was working with before, she's called Padma Ramanam. She lives in Bristol, okay. So I don't think you know each other. But she had 14 years of really rigorous training as she was younger, so she was very experienced in that way. Mm-hmm. But she would say that Carnatic music, the main difference is that in the compositions, the melodies are more rhythmically bound, and they dictate the rhythm. Mm-hmm, yeah. And there's a real emphasis on form, and the compositions are often very long and are sung or performed in their complete form, so a long memorized performance, and really to do with the rhythm is very essential in how that composition is delivered. Mm-hmm. Whereas with North Indian music, she described it more like hills and valleys, and you might have the single line of the composition. It may only be 2 lines or something, but the timing can be varied quite a lot. Yeah. So you don't have to stick to exact timing of that phrase. Yeah. It can be really stretched, and but she didn't really go too much into all of the technical things about rhythm and the conical, and she didn't really break it down so much in that way. It was just all about compositions. So I mean, are there any main differences? How does it appear in your mind?
I don't know, but for me, when I'm listening to both Hindustani and Carnatic, the main thing for me is kind of just like the ornamentation, and just kind of like the modulation of the voice, like you said, like that hilly and flowy. That's kind of how I see and visualize Hindustani music. It's just kind of like just the ornamentation. So like in Carnatic music, we use gamakam. So I feel like in Carnatic music it's more, how do I phrase it, just more rigid, but when it comes to Hindustani music, it's a bit, I can't really put like the word to it, but it's not as rigid. So for me, listening to both, there's quite a big difference in terms of that. So for me, that's probably the biggest difference when listening to both of those types of music.
And I know what you mean, because the different how do you say it? It's gamakars.
Yeah.
So the different gamakars they're very defined in their precise movement. Yeah. And when you say rigid, it's almost like they're arranged very precisely.
Yeah.
So if you have an ornamentation on a note, it will be very sort of there's a consistency, there's an insistence on the particular ornamentation, which is then sort of crystallized. Mm-hmm. And it's almost more instrumental in that way, because when you do a particular ornamentation on a fretted instrument or bowed instrument, you can kind of do that on repeat, because it becomes a technique, whether it's a bowing technique or a sliding technique, and the voice almost strives for that. It's not mechanical, because the end result isn't mechanical, but the technical perfection, realization of that ornamentation very it's a bit more scientific in a way.
That's actually a nice way of putting it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but scientific in like in an artistic way. Yeah. Whereas with North Indian music, I think it's a bit more open-ended because there are very precise ornamentations, but I haven't come across such a sort of a kind of coded system in the same way. So if I'm having a lesson with Roopa, my teacher, and she's playing the sitar, she'll be doing a little ornamentation, but she won't say, this one is called this, and you do this one and then this one. There aren't really names for things in that way. I mean, there probably are names. I hear other teachers using names, but she would say, well, this is just the way that Shahid Pervez plays Jhinjoti, or this is the way that Raag Khan would play this note. It also that there's an element of it which is more about the personal style of the musician and the way that they unfold the alap and the way that they particularly like to ornamentate, and the styles, the Gharana, the musical family, and the way that they have their ornamentations would be very different to the way that Ravi Shankar would do it. One other thing I was really curious about was your guitar playing, because you've got a nice feel for slightly jazzy kind of chords and jazzy chord progressions. And I'm wondering, have you had guitar lessons, or how have you learned this particular style?
So to be honest, it was just kind of completely random. I just randomly decided I wanted to kind of just have guitar. Also, because when I started to post as well, I kind of wanted like an accompaniment to my voice. So that's kind of why I just picked it up. And I hadn't gone to any lessons, so I just kind of did it by ear as such, kind of just tried to figure out by ear. And in terms of the jazz influence, that's kind of, I guess, influence from what I listen to. I love listening to jazz and like a lot of neo soul as well. So I guess that's kind of, I just kind of tailored the chords that I kind of learned to my taste and my liking. So I guess it's, I haven't really properly learnt, so I'm still very much just kind of messing around with it.
Right.
But yeah, I guess I kind of just picked up the guitar to kind of accompany my vocal, and then I was like, actually, I kind of enjoy it, so I kind of started to play around with it more. Yeah.
Oh, that's really great, because I've taught a lot of people to play the guitar. So when I see someone playing and using, just quite particularly selected chords and little progressions, it always kind of catches my ear, because it's not normally the first thing that people do with the guitar. So it seems like you had quite a particular direction and style that you wanted to incorporate, and it comes across really, really well. You've got a good ear for cadence, voice leading, and just the way that the changes hang together. It's really nicely done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you say you did it by ear, I mean, did you look at chord boxes, or was like any videos to learn about different chord shapes? Or
if you want me to be perfectly honest, I think maybe first couple of weeks I did look up chords and stuff, and then I don't know. I just didn't stick to that, and I just kind of just tried to figure it out by ear, because I was able to just do like just the normal chords that were online or whatever. But I kind of just wanted to just figure out some other chords to with my singing or like whatever I was working on. So I guess I just kind of played around with it until I heard something I liked, and then I was like, I just carried on doing that. So it was again more by ear than looking up sort of like chord shapes and stuff, which is, I guess, not a conventional way of learning. But
well, you're like someone from the old days, who would the old blues and jazz musicians, they didn't know, they didn't have chord books and the internet and stuff like that. they just followed their ear and found different voicings. And so it's really, really cool that, because in the guitar community, a lot of people talk about, guitar teachers talk about, people who are sort of, my age, in their 30s or 40s, they say, oh, when I was young, we could maybe buy a guitar magazine or something like that, but we would just put on records. We would just listen to things and we just work stuff out. And you might buy a video of a concert and then kind of you could look and see what they were doing a little bit, but only part of the time. So you'd have to figure it out. And guitar teachers talk about now all of the stuff's there, so no one really needs to use their ear anymore. So it's really cool that that someone like you's just picked up the guitar, and you've obviously just looked at a few things just to start you off with, but you've just really taken it in your own direction. But because you've got the knowledge of Sargam, or rather just your ear is trained into hearing different scales and things, because the thing about those chords is that some of them point more towards a particular scale. So if you play a minor chord, but maybe you're using a flat 9 or something like that, that would just be like having a Cornwall ray, at the top of the chord or something like that. Because when I was working with Padma, I would experiment sometimes. I would do a lot of diatonic harmony when you stay, all the chords belong in one key. But I would be playing Sarasangi, or we would play some kind of ragam, from the Carnatic system, but I would make all of my chords within that scale. And if I would pick a particular note and put it at the top of the chord, she would pick that out and then she would sing that note so she could hear what the top of the chord was. So I'd imagine that even just subconsciously, when you're making these chords, you'll be aware of the kind of value and the color that the different notes are adding. You probably aren't thinking about it that much theoretically, I'd imagine. But your ear is used to that kind of complexity of those different intervals kind of rubbing up against each other,
I guess not consciously doing it, but like it is happening. That's really fascinating. Because it's nicely played as well. You look like you've got a good handle of the guitar, and your timing, and you're tapping on the strings of your right hand to give it the rhythm, and so it's a really great element. So you do a lot of adaptations of film songs as well. And because there's a particular style of singing which there's a particular style there which is sort of very different to the Carnatic style as well. Definitely. I'd never really tried cinema, so what I did enjoy about kind of trying to create content from that was kind of trying to take a different perspective to the song and try and give it a bit of a twist. So so I enjoyed kind of working on songs and then giving it a different angle musically, if that makes sense. Because you're creating your own arrangements with these songs, right? And do you just use the guitar for that, or do you sometimes use are you into programming as well? I'm slowly trying to learn. At the moment, I do have a MIDI keyboard, and I have tried to incorporate that. I can't play keyboard or piano or anything, but I am trying to just play around with it and see what I can do. But I guess especially at the beginning of posting and everything, I was just purely just using my guitar. But I'm trying to get more into programming and get better at it so that I can develop.
And finally, you're working on some original pieces as well?
So I am currently working on an EP and a single, so slowly working through that again, because I don't have much experience in production and programming and all of that, so I am slowly trying to learn that. And also in terms of lyrics as well, I hadn't like previously written lyrics that much as well. So it's still quite a slow process, but yeah, it's been quite fun in terms of kind of integrating all the styles that I enjoy. And yeah, I just kind of want to work on this EP to kind of hopefully be able to showcase myself as an artist. So hopefully through that I will be able to kind of understand my style and understand myself as a musician a bit more. So it's been quite fun to kind of venture into that.
Yeah, it's all formulating, isn't it? Yeah. Do you have a particular language that you like to write in most of all, or there's a few in there?
So I guess I'm happy to write in English. So in terms of the English songs that I'm working on, I'm happy to do that. But I personally don't feel like I'm capable of writing in Tamil yet, because I'm not perfectly okay with speaking the language or like writing in the language. So I am working with lyricists to kind of write the Tamil lyrics for me. So I'm just kind of writing like a theme or just ideas, and then giving that to the lyricist and then working with them. So I am gonna like the EP will incorporate both English and Tamil. So yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm really impressed that you're assembling a team in that way, because everyone has limits, and the thing that really helps that shows that things will start to move forward and things will develop is when you know how to find people to work with, just to make the whole production wholesome, and to make sure that every little thing is being, you've got someone to do that job. And I mean, there'll be so many things that you'll be able to do just off your own back. But yeah, I'm very impressed that you've done that step, because it just takes that extra bit of initiative to say, right, I need someone to do this job, and then find that right person. So hats off to you and you had a wonderful guitar player playing on one of your pieces as well. It was an excellent player.
He's amazing. Blaze, it was very good. And he hadn't really heard much of like Tamil music or Tamil cinema or anything like classical, so he was quite intrigued by that as well. So it was quite fun to work with him.
Yeah, my compliments to him. Okay, well, thanks so much for your time. It's been really interesting to talk to you and hear more about your musical background and the direction that you're starting to develop. And it really feels like you're finding your way as you're going, kind of shining a torch along your path, and it's unfolding to you as you're walking it, which is very, very inspiring. So thanks so much for sharing your music with everyone.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much.
யாரிடம் சொல்வேன் அடி